What's going on, guys? Here's the thing. I'll ask you a question. It's a hard question to answer. You can only answer it for yourself, and I'll give you the silver lining to that answer, okay? Or to the question, however you want to say it. Okay. And it's the obvious question is how long have you been working on this goal that you still haven't put the work in for it? Okay, and maybe you just thought of it. Maybe it's something you've been working on for a month, a year, couple years. You know, for some of us, as you get a little bit older, sometimes it might be a decade you're working on something. And I'll tell you a story too that goes along with it, that I failed hugely at. Hugely, I don't know if that's a word, but I failed. I seriously failed on it, but there is something cool about it. Okay, number one, the thing is, if you start putting in the work now, if you start putting in the real effort, here's the good part is that most people don't. Most people are just going through life, just getting through the day. Most people are just trying to get through the month. And there's nothing wrong with that if someone doesn't have big ambitions. That's okay. So a lot of times we're competing against, it's the top 20% that are all competing against each other, in my opinion. Because I think most people aren't really doing anything. And I think there's some people who just don't have ambitions, and there's some people who they're just tied up with everyday life. You know, but the only way you're gonna really accomplish anything serious is you gotta go for it, and you gotta seriously go for it. And this is the thing. There's times where you go, well, you know, I tried that, I did this, but you know the stuff you really put an effort into, and you know the stuff you didn't. You know that answer. No one's got to tell you. No one's gonna tell you because it's only something you can do. But years back, actually, okay, I'm 44 now. I'm gonna be 45. Back when I was like 20, I had an idea for a novel, actually, I had an idea for a screenplay for a movie, and I'm like, and for the longest time, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna write this screenplay, and I think it's gonna be a huge blockbuster, right? And I always talked about it, you know, not always, but I mean, I talked about it, you know, often. If it would come up, I'd explain it, and everyone's like, oh, that's a cool idea, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, it got to the point where this is 2019 now. So at the time I was 39 years old, and I'm like, for God's sakes, I never did anything with that screenplay. Well, actually, go back, this is about 2018. And I'm like, I should write it. I'm going to write this damn screenplay. And I started writing the screenplay, and I'm like, okay, writing screenplays very difficult. Well, I don't want to say it's difficult, because yes, it is difficult, but anything worthwhile, you're not going to just jump into something and be great at it. But there is a lot of nuances to it that I'm like, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna, since I read a lot and I'm very familiar with books, I'm gonna write a novel instead of writing a screenplay, because I didn't know like the structure of the screenplay. That's what I was trying to say. But I knew how to roughly write a novel, even though I never did anything like that before. So I'm like, all right, so fast forward, now this is 2019, I'm like, I'm gonna write the novel. So it took me a couple months, and I wrote it, right? And I started submitting it to agents and publishers. I was getting rejection after rejection after rejection. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna, you know, clean it up a little bit, and I started writing other stories, and I would submit it to publishers and a lot of like contests. Like there's a lot of like writing contests, and I'd submit my stuff constantly. And when I tell you I put a serious effort into it, I put a serious effort into it. It wasn't like I was just like, you know, I did, you know, 10 entries and it didn't work, or I submitted 10 times, it didn't work, and I just gave up. No, I mean, I seriously put a real effort into it. I you know, easily 100 submissions. As far as agents goes for my novel, I probably submitted to 200-300 agents easily. And I got all rejections, right? And it's funny because at that point you say, well, you failed. But here's the thing though. Yes, that didn't work out. But there's actually a golden lining or silver lining, whatever you want to call it. But okay, two things about that. Number one is I looked at that and I said, okay, well, I can put this on the shelf, my novel on the shelf for, you know, for whenever I want to come back to it, because I did everything I could. I felt okay with the effort I put in. I'm like, there's not much more I could have done. So at that point I had to go back and fix my writing, figure something out. Obviously it wasn't working to what they were looking for, okay? So, but I was okay with it because I put in such a big effort. Now here's the twist. when I put that on the shelf, I refocused on my business. And then 2020, I had a big breakout in 2020 and 2021. So if ironically, if my writing would have worked out at that time, then I probably wouldn't have excelled in my business like I did. But my point is, so it was a double, like it was a double, it worked out twice. But the thing is this, is that even stuff that doesn't work out, like if you don't accomplish something, because you're not going to accomplish everything. I don't care what anyone tells you. I don't care how good you are, how talented you are, how lucky you are, all this. You're not gonna succeed in everything. The truth is you're gonna fail in most things, okay? But here's the thing, it's like, how much effort are you putting in? And that's the key, is because if you put in a legitimate effort, then you got nothing to lose, then it's fine. And you know what, I guess we'll wrap it up on that. Yeah, we'll wrap it up on that.